what are we up to today? Well, we're looking at a pile of parts, and you can see my apprentice over on the side here. We're in the back of the 6-wheel drive ambulance. This is a quick little video. If you search on my channel, you'll find a bunch of other 6-wheel drive ambulance related videos. This is a Land Rover ambulance as produced for the Australian Defence Force, and it is 6-wheel drive. And we've got a bit of work to do. We're in the middle of trying to get it roadworthy right before Christmas. So three of the main things that need to be done is the steering damper bushes need to be replaced, so we've got some of them. The third axle tail shaft bearing needs to be replaced, and there is a slip joint boot missing. So I have a power steering boot here that should probably suffice. That's what I've been able to find at short notice. I have a box full of Donaldson oil filters that are going to go in, but they're going to go in at a later date. Today it's currently raining, so this bearing is probably not going to go in, nor is the slip joint. However, what is quick and easy to do are these bushes. Now, I think it's going to rain much worse tomorrow, so at least at this point I can get under and replace these guys right now. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to replace our steering damper bushes. I'm only going to need 2 of these. I bought spares just in case. All right, let me find some tools and get under the front. This shouldn't take too long. All right, so we're suddenly in a different spot. Where are we right at the moment? So let's point a few things out to give you an idea. This thingy here is our steering damper, which is the bit we're going to fix. This bit here is the PTO winch, or the drive for the PTO for the winch. The winch being that thing up there. This is the air conditioning compressor, which you probably can't see, that has no belt on it or flywheel. That's probably going to come out at some point. My apprentice has come to watch. So let's get this guy out. There's a couple of nuts there we've got to pull off, and these bushes are completely missing. So I've got my trusty, let's see if I can get my viewfinder again. This is my trusty Barco set, and I've got 4 sizes on each spanner. I think about the 17 is probably about the right one for this one. All right, now I've got to get myself in a different position, so let's hold up a second. All right, so now I'm in a slightly different position, which is still not ideal. This guy's going to keep spinning, and it looks like we've got a lock nut set up here, so I may need to actually find myself an open-ended spanner for that. I thought that was going to be a simple job, but it pretty well is. Let's just take those 2 off and put some bushes back in here. So that's how I find my open-ended spanners. All right, got ourselves a 17mm open-ender on here, but I think it's a bit thick for the job. I guess we've just got to try and crack that. So we might get it. Let's see what we can do here. I've got a feeling I could be pushing the proverbial uphill trying to do this. But let's see what we can do. Got it. Now, a crucial thing, if you're ever doing this, and if you're watching this you probably have, don't do this with a spanner because you'll break your knuckles. Open-handed. So, I felt like that moved. Let's give it another shot here. Where are we? Oh. Is that just spinning in the jaws of the bloody spanner? What's going on here? No, it feels like it's coming off. I think we've got some free play now. It might be, it's finger tight now, that's good. Should have put some WD or something on this to get it off. I may yet do that. All right, let's, pretty sure you get the idea of what I got to do here now, so let's jump to when I'm done with that bit. All right, we've got our 2 nuts off, and this might explain the funny rattling sound I keep hearing under here all the time. Wow, these are really sticky, these old bushes. There's literally nothing left of them. Like, that's literally what we should have. Well, this is what we should have, and that's what we do have. Like, wow. I can probably resurrect the washers off them, but those things are like glued in there, and they're just folding apart in my fingers. So see if I can push this damper in, get that one off as well. This one could be tricky. This feels like it's really stuck on there. Oh, there we go. All right, so I'm going to leave that washer on there because I think that's sensible, and we'll get a couple of bushes, and I hope these fit. All right, so these bushes have got a little lip. I have never done this before, but I'm going to guess that's meant to self-locate in the middle there. So I'm going to whack one of them straight on there and shove that through the hole. I don't think these are strictly the exact right ones, but they should be at least functional enough to get it through a roadie, and then I can figure out what I need to do the job properly afterwards, because I'm doing a lot of stuff at short notice here. So let's get these guys back on. Where are we? I'll get this guy on finger tight. I'll do that to a reasonable pressure, not so much as I crush them, but enough to give us some pressure there. You can probably hear my apprentice rattling around in the back there because she's currently watching shows in the back of the ambo. And my camera's attached to the steering arm. Now, this is where I've got to lay at a funny angle. I might just do this. Might be easier. I'll get that up till it's firm. That is firm enough. I think I'm probably missing another bit in here. I think there probably should be some sort of bushing in that part of the steering damper. So I may investigate that later. But they can't bitch about the bushings not being in a right spot. So let's flip this guy over and do up our lock nut here. And that should be pretty well done. Should be, being the active word. It's never ending with these things. Where's our 17mm here? Righty tighty. I might just leave that guy there. That should stop the other one from turning. Yeah. Oh, I had my things a little backwards. All right. That's those lock nuts. Appreciably firm, but not so tight that it's breaking anything. And that should stop that rattling around. That's our steering bushes done, and damper bushes. That might actually stop some of its walking all over the road too. This has walked a little bit. So it probably does need an alignment, but it's really only toe in and toe out you can do with these things. So, which I think is probably down to tie rod ends, and the camera here is actually attached to the tie rod, which I look at where it is actually, and there's a fair bit of pitting and corrosion, so I might end up trying to find a whole new tie rod if I can. But certainly tie rod ends are going to be in the near future. But that's the easy job done. Not to say that the bearings at the back are a hard job. That's just something I'm going to need 2 sets of hands for, and I don't. And it's probably going to be pissing rain tomorrow. And this thing's too big to put on a hoist or even get to the workshop that I have access to with a hoist that I paid for. So this one I'm going to have to lay under it, and probably with a mate. So that magnet is strong. That is all that stuff down there. See, we've got 1 and 2 diffs up the back. The very last diff has a drive shaft over there. So I might crawl under and give you a quick look at the drivetrain, because everybody asked me those questions. So let's crawl down that end for a bit. All right, so apologize for the dodgy camera work for a moment, but we're under the back. Now this is the most common thing I get asked about this since I've bought it, and I've only had it for like less than a month at this point, hence all the roadworthy stuff. But this little bit here turning here, that's the drive to our 3rd axle. Yes, it really is a 6-wheel drive. However, most of the time it's a 6x4, because if we swing all the way over here, and we're upside down, so let's turn our camera up. Sorry for the dizziness. This is our handbrake drum here. This is our transfer case. So, like a standard 4-wheel drive, we have a drive shaft to the front and a drive shaft to the back. And the transfer case, there is a centered differential in there. The hubs on these don't have locking hubs, but there is a center diff. Now, when you engage the pneumatic cylinder, which is this guy here, that engages the center diff lock, but also the clutch on the PTO shaft, or this extra shaft here. And I want to work out where that drop of oil came from later too. But anyway, so once you engage the center diff lock, you also suddenly have this third axle driving. So that then gives you 6-wheel drive with center diff lock. Now, you can imagine doing that on paved road would be fucking catastrophic. It would destroy things. Now, the PTO drive for the winch is actually a separate thing altogether as well. So that is our winch PTO there. So totally different. Now, this is still the LT95 gearbox and transfer case, same as in the 4x4. So you can fit a PTO drive and a winch to that same gearbox. So I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments. That usually happens when I've got some misinformation about things, but to the best of my understanding, that's how things go. And this looks pretty well identical to what's in my 4x4. But the next thing we do need to do, oh, actually, that's the other thing I will be doing. These fuel lines here, this is for the dual tank switch over valve, because it's got 2 tanks in this one. I need to drain each sedimenter here, these guys here, drain them and clean them and get the junk out of them if there's any in there. And these fuel lines are as hard and as starting to perish a bit. So these fuel lines, I will replace all them at some stage. For the moment, they function quite well. If it's not broken, I'm not going to screw with it just yet. Let's turn our camera around a bit. Oh, laying underneath is a problem for camera work. This guy here is our next job, but that's going to happen in another video. Right here, we've got this bearing and all this rubber stuff. They reckon it's got a lot of chunk and movement around, but I actually can't move that at all. But the problem is this $100 bearing here is going to throw my roadworthy out, and I've already spent 450 bucks, and I'm going to have to spend another 100 bucks to finish the roadie. So it's just easier for me to just suck it up and change that bearing out. Further down, there's a slip joint down there. The boot's got to go over that slip joint. So what we might do while we're under here, we might grab that boot and see if it's going to be long enough, because it's not strictly the right one. So let's go grab that. Now we're topside for a moment, and just to let you know, this is an RRB 107 power steering boot. That's really all I know. I went down to Repco, and that's what they gave me. Let's crawl back under again and have a look. All right, so we're approaching by the rear this time, and I'm getting soaking wet. All right, this is not easy. So that will probably be just about long enough. I'm gonna have to trim that little bit off, but I think we can probably fit that on the slip joint, and with a couple of new hose clamps, that'll be right. And we just set the hose clamps 180 degrees offset to avoid any harmonics. And then if I get that done quickly enough, while I've got it off, I'll pump some new grease through all these grease nipples. In fact, that one is so shagged, I might even rip that grease nipple out and put a couple of new ones in. I'll buy a bag of grease nipples and replace them while I'm here, because that grease is pretty old, and well, it's still greasy, so that's a plus. But there's my neighbours that have got turbos and feel horribly emasculated by this thing in the front yard. It's amusing to watch. But yeah, so there's been some grease coming off that UJ, so it's been regularly greased at some point, so that's good. Anyway, we're going to get out from under here. I've got to do the reverse caterpillar. Get out from under here. Oh, and I left the step down. All right, we will see you again topside. All right, let's get away from the messy back of the vehicle here. Another one of my neighbours have got the same problem. See how we go. Oh, and this guy's stopping to have a look. Oh, we're popular. So he's going to take off. Anyway, oh, that side door just popped open. I must not have shut that properly. I should probably shut that and lock it and lubricate those latches and stuff. There's going to be some fiberglass work to do with this at some point. Like it's had a bit of a bump in the past in the corner here. So I've got the manual on how to do the fiberglass even for this thing. So, and I did just to this morning, I think I bolted it back down. I put 235 amp hour deep cycle batteries in there. And I found somebody that has the 24 volt alternator that should go in the front here, or a 24 volt alternator and brackets, similar or identical to the one that's been removed. So I'll be putting a 24 volt alternator back in. I found a 24 volt inverter slash MPPT solar charger, and a 12 volt regulator all in one unit that can go in that box. And I'm going to put probably 600 watts of solar on the top, and bring it back down to 24 volts on the charger, so that'll be good. But I think it's time I folded everything up, got inside out of the sun, or out of the, not the sun, out of the rain, and go and find a mate to help me do that rear bearing. All right, that's been a shorty, or maybe a long one. I don't know what your reference is for YouTube video length, but short one on the Ambo. There will be more to come. See you in the next one. Hope you had fun.